Greetings, weary time traveler. Tonight, you're not trudging through muddy battlefields or hauling stones for cathedrals that'll outlive you by centuries. No, tonight's torment is far more intimate. A petty, persistent agony in some insignificant molar. You're experiencing medieval dentistry at its finest, where the pinnacle of medical intervention involves smoke, hot iron, and desperate prayers to indifferent saints. Before we plunge into this carnival of herbal absurdities, sacred dentition, and the unforgettable screech of metal tools violating biological spaces never meant for scraping, grant me one small courtesy. Tell me where you're listening from and what hour your local clock shows. I relish knowing who's dozing off to these whispered horrors of yesteryear. If advertisements annoy you, our Patreon offers ad-free episodes. Link in description. Now, recline, get cozy, perhaps nestle under one of those comforting weighted blankets that mimic being gently crushed by history itself. I've linked my favorite in the description. Let's begin properly. Dawn finds you prematurely awake, betrayed by your own anatomy. At first, you mistake it for dream residue. Just another unpleasantness woven into your usual tapestry of nightmares. Burning wagon wheels, rabid rodents, your mother's spectral voice questioning your perpetual bachelorhood. But then the discomfort sharpens, methodical and rhythmic, until you realize with dawning horror, you're fully conscious. Your eyes open to smoke-choked darkness. The musty weight of unwashed wool blankets presses against your chin, while something pulses inside your jaw like a miniature, malicious heart. The hearth's dying embers cast faint crimson shadows across the room, providing neither warmth nor proper illumination. A crow caws outside like nature's alarm clock. Indoors, the air's so frigid it could fracture the water bucket. Each visible breath mocks your suffering. You shift position and instantly regret it. Straw pokes through threadbare linens to assault your back, while your jaw answers this movement with renewed throbbing, as if offended by your attempted escape. Closing your eyes changes nothing. The pain's patient. It knows you're defenseless. As the village leatherworker, you craft shoes mostly, sometimes belts, occasionally saddles when fortune smiles. Your hands perpetually bear the stains of your trade. Bark tannins, dyes, oils, and whatever unidentifiable filth lurks within the salted hides you drag from market. You rent workspace in a drafty shed near the square that reeks of boiling hoof glue and deceased livestock. It's not glorious work, but it feeds you more reliably than your father's failing farm ever did. In prosperous years, you might even afford replacement teeth. But tonight you're stuck with God's original faulty models, and they're failing spectacularly. By the time you sit up and plant your feet on the packed earth floor, the pain has settled into something constant, a dull, nagging presence with faint warmth radiating through your cheek. You probe the area with your knuckles, finding no visible swelling, but the offending tooth? Oh, that tells a different story. Your tongue traces the molar lineup and identifies the traitor immediately. The slightest pressure sends white-hot lightning through your skull, as if someone's tapping your optic nerve with a spoon. You recoil instinctively, withdrawing your tongue like it touched fire. Still, you've endured worse. That ox trampling your foot last winter. The bone-deep cut that festered for weeks. That time you ate spoiled barley and hallucinated floating sheep. Pain is your constant companion. This particular variety just happens to be camped out near your last functional chewing tooth. You stoke the fire and prepare barley gruel, each swallow vibrating painfully through your jaw. You chew exclusively on your good side, lips curled awkwardly to avoid contact with the rebel tooth. It's undignified, but then so is everything about your existence. Outside, the village stirs to life. Smoke curls from thatched roofs. Footsteps crunch through morning frost. A dog barks incessantly because existence confuses it. You fasten your cloak tightly and step into the street, jaw clenched, eyes narrowed against the wind. No one notices your suffering. Naturally, you exchange nods with the baker's apprentice, arms overflowing with rolls too hard for you to chew even on pain-free days. When someone calls your name across the square, your attempted smile feels like anatomical treason. The workshop greets you with its usual chill. The glue pot's frozen solid again. You begin the day's tasks in silence, sharpening knives on leather strops while consciously avoiding teeth grinding. Every jaw movement drives what feels like a nail into the bone beneath your ear. You tell yourself it's just swelling. Maybe you chewed wrong. Maybe the cold air. Maybe demonic possession. You'd prefer the demon theory. At least those occasionally negotiate. Your apprentice arrives late, sniffling, and begins hide-scraping with all the efficiency of a half-drowned chicken. You barely glance up, engrossed in crafting boots for the Reeves' son, though your hands move slower than usual. The awl slips repeatedly. At midday, you attempt dried meat and nearly drop it after the first bite. You claim lack of appetite with transparent dishonesty. By afternoon, the pain's grown ambitious. No longer content with localized torment, it radiates upward toward your ear and temple. Your face feels asymmetrically heavy. The gum around the traitor tooth aches persistently now, even untouched. Your tongue keeps revisiting the crime scene like a nervous sentry checking for intruders. The verdict remains unchanged, guilty of existing. You try drinking from the communal bucket. Cold worsens it. Heat worsens it. Mere existence worsens it. Catching your reflection in a water barrel, you notice your left cheek looks suspiciously rounder. Not quite swollen. Not yet. But the suggestion lurks beneath the skin like a storm cloud gathering. A tentative knuckle probe produces instant regret. The resulting flash of agony could guide ships through fog. Your mouth's taste shifts subtly, metallic, like licking old coins. You spit into the fire and watch your suffering sizzle. A customer inquires about their overdue belt. You lie smoothly. Deception becomes your newest skill. Somehow, you endure until evening. By then, the pain has developed its own voice, whispering behind your ear, hissing through your teeth, coloring every thought. You've stopped speaking to your apprentice because even conversation hurts. He interprets this as divine mercy. When he finally leaves, you collapse against the workbench, counting breaths like a monk tallying prayers. You tell yourself this will pass. People survive worse. You won't die from a tooth. And that's precisely when realization strikes. You'll actually need to do something about it. The pain isn't leaving. It's colonizing your skull. You've endured smoke-cured hides, inhaled pig hair and ammonia fumes, survived hoof kicks and highway robbery by wandering monks. Yet this single tooth outlasts all other miseries combined. You need help. Not the barber-surgeon yet. That's surrender. No, you'll start conservatively. Tomorrow, you'll visit the village healer, that ancient crone with the egg-white eye and her mysterious collection of unidentifiable dried leaves. She once cured your neighbor's lame goat. Surely she can handle one rebellious molar. You clean your tools, bank the fire, and limp home silently. The night air bites your skin. Your bed feels colder than the grave. You press the uninjured side of your face into scratchy blankets and breathe shallowly. The throbbing in your jaw synchronizes with your heartbeat. You close your eyes. Come morning, the pain will have established permanent residency behind your cheekbone. It's brought furniture, hung drapes, made clear its intention to remain indefinitely. Morning arrives with no reprieve. The left side of your face has officially declared independence from the rest of your body. It's not merely swollen anymore. It's reshaping your very identity. Your cheek balloons outward, flushed with unnatural heat, stretched so taut over the aching bone beneath that it resembles overproofed dough left too long in the sun. The tooth no longer pulses rhythmically. That would imply mercy. No, this is constant now. A relentless drilling presence that's tunneling deeper into your skull, like some demented miner searching for your sanity. You haven't slept, only drifted through fevered half-dreams where your molars cracked like walnut shells, leaking foul substances down your throat. Rising with the gray dawn light, you're colder, grimmer, and more determined than yesterday. Through gritted, trembling teeth, you swear this won't be your end. Not today. Not by something as absurd as a rebellious tooth. The workshop remains untouched. No pretense of productivity today. Your apprentice will manage, or won't. Frankly, you couldn't care less. Wrapping your cloak tight against the morning chill, you set off down the winding path skirting the forest's edge. Frost crunches underfoot with satisfying treachery. Somewhere distant, a cow bellows as if privy to cosmic jokes at your expense. You mutter prayers, not to God who's clearly abandoned this project, but to whatever lesser spirits might still be listening. Today's destination, her. She dwells where the village proper dissolves into marshland, where the air carries competing notes of wild garlic and decaying matter. Children call her the Tooth Witch, though never within earshot. Her dwelling barely qualifies as a haunt. 3 questionable walls, a roof slanted like a drunkard's smile, and a door that's clearly been salvaged from some better door's demise. Animal bones, you hope they're animal, dangle from the eaves like macabre wind chimes. That time she cured your neighbor's goat by whispering in its ear and rubbing crushed nettles on its backside still gets mentioned at gatherings. You're banking on similar magic for your jaw. She greets you without rising from her 3-legged stool, perched like some half-forgotten household deity. Her hair resembles a bird's nest constructed during a windstorm. Her robes have achieved that special shade of brown that comes when white linen finally surrenders to entropy. One good eye glitters at you like river-polished glass, while the other, milky and unseeing, seems to gaze through your soul. Your explanation emerges as a symphony of half-words and pained gestures, pointing at your swollen face, miming exaggerated chewing motions. She nods with the weary patience of someone who's heard this symphony before, which, of course, she has. Worm in the bone, she declares. Or possibly poison wind. You nod as if this makes perfect sense. At this point, you'd believe in curses, ghosts, or microscopic demons wielding pickaxes. From a dangling herb bundle near the fire, she selects ingredients with stained, spidery fingers, sage older than your grandmother, mustard seeds that might predate Christianity, nettle leaves that still look spiteful despite being dry, and something that could be apple bark or possibly dragon scale. She crushes them together in a clay mortar, periodically spitting into the mixture like a chef seasoning soup. You're not entirely convinced the saliva's necessary, but you're in no position to critique folk dentistry. When she gestures, you open your mouth like an obedient hatchling. She packs the herbal pulp against your cheek with the practiced brutality of someone stuffing a sausage casing. It's wet, gritty, and unnervingly warm. Your gag reflex activates immediately. Your second impulse is to scream. The sage stings like betrayal. The mustard burns with culinary malice. The nettles scratch regions of your mouth you didn't know could be reached. The healer clucks approvingly, as if this suffering signifies progress. Hold it there, she instructs. Don't swallow, unless you fancy your ears ringing for 3 days straight. You nod, already regretting every life choice that led to this moment. The pulp expands in your cheek like bread dough in a hot oven. Your jaw feels heavier, as if you've been sucker punched by an invisible assailant. Still, you mumble thanks through your herbal muzzle. You leave coins on her floorboards that she pointedly ignores, already engrossed in stripping bark from a stick that smells like cat urine and existential despair. Your walk of shame back to the village involves herbal sludge leaking from your lips and dignity leaking from your soul. Villagers glance, then quickly look away. Attempted greetings emerge as sounds that would make a dying sheep cringe. By the time you reach your workshop, the pain has diversified, now occupying 3 new locations in your jaw. Though whether this represents progress or merely pain's entrepreneurial spirit is unclear. Midday brings the pulp's inevitable betrayal. It begins sliding, abandoning its post. Your tongue's left side has gone numb. You spit the remains into the fire with ceremonial disgust, awaiting relief that never comes. If anything, the ache has deepened, grown more resentful, like a child denied sweets who retaliates by holding its breath. You sit motionless, hoping the pain will grow bored and depart. It doesn't. Eventually, you return to the healer's hut without knocking. She observes you with something between pity and amusement before sighing and rummaging through her collection of deceased flora. Producing an onion that's seen better centuries, she instructs you to chew. So you do. It's a terrible onion, soft where it should be crisp, pungent where it should be subtle, aggressive where it should be docile. Its juices flood your mouth and dribble down your chin like acidic tears. The sharpness is immediate, cruel, and personal. Your jaw's nerve responds as if you've injected it with molten lead. You nearly faint. She nods sagely. Good sign, she declares. Next comes a small bottle of vinegar that's somehow both liquid and solid simultaneously, brown, thick, reeking of spoiled cider. She orders you to swish it like some unholy mouthwash. You comply until stars dance behind your eyelids, then spit into the grass. Your gums bleed freely now. She claps once, mission accomplished, and returns to her stool. The final treatment involves theater. She lights a bundle of dried henbane and instructs you to inhale deeply. You hesitate, but her gaze suggests the smoke is inevitable. One breath, two, three. The world tilts on its axis. Your tongue swells to twice its normal size. Your ears hum church hymns in reverse. The pain doesn't leave. It merely retreats to a corner of your skull like a chastened child plotting revenge. Stumbling outside, you cling to a tree for support. The bark feels damp and judgmental. Distant singing warps as if underwater. Time becomes elastic. You're uncertain whether minutes or hours pass while you debate if onions have always been this violent or if you're special. When the dizziness fades, the pain returns sharper, angrier. Your jaw has become a percussion instrument played by an enthusiastic idiot with wooden spoons. You begin suspecting the pulp, the smoke, the chewing, the spitting, all were ceremonial theater. A performance to satisfy your desperate need to believe anything might help. It hasn't. Evening finds you slumped in your workshop pressing a damp rag to your face. Mouth still haunted by sage and shattered expectations. The apprentice asks if you're dying. Your non-committal grunt lacks conviction. Dinner is impossible. Speech is unthinkable. Your face burns. Your breath could fell a healthy ox. The left side of your jaw now resembles a overripe fruit moments before bursting. Touching the offending tooth confirms the worst, it's looser. Whether this signals impending freedom or just another phase of torment is unclear. You lie down, not expecting healing anymore. Not from saints, not from witches, not from anyone. But tonight, at least, you've been ritually humiliated. That counts for something. The peddler arrives when your face has achieved its most spectacular dimensions. No longer merely swollen. Your left cheek now commands attention like a second moon rising, round, taut, and radiating heat that could melt wax at 3 paces. Children point. Dogs whimper. Your reflection in the water trough shows a man halfway through transforming into a carnival mask, one side grotesquely inflated, the other sagging with exhaustion. This traveling merchant is a squat creature with a face like a dried apple left too long in the sun, his cart piled high with wooden combs, glass beads, and tools that might have been knives in a previous life. He smells like wet sheep and boiled cabbage, and speaks with the conviction of a man who's spent too many winters talking only to his mule. He's mid-sentence about thread quality when he notices your face, or rather, the unnatural geography of it. His eyes linger on the swelling, the way your jaw hangs slightly askew, the damp rag you keep pressed to your chin like a surrender flag. No questions asked, just a knowing nod. Toothworm, he declares, as if diagnosing the weather. He repeats it slower when you blink at him, tapping his nose with a dirt-caked finger like he's about to share forbidden wisdom. There's a worm in your tooth, he explains, burrowed deep into the root. Nasty little bastard wriggles when the weather changes. That's your pain. That's what you're feeling. You're too exhausted to argue. Desperation makes his theory as plausible as any. There's perverse comfort in the idea of your agony having form. A tangible creature that could theoretically be evicted. You ask how one rids themselves of a toothworm. His grin reveals several gaps in his dental lineup as he rummages through his cart with the solemnity of a priest preparing sacraments. The pouch he produces jingles ominously. Inside, soot, powdered sulfur, and unidentifiable herbs that smell like a demon's spice rack. His instructions are precise. Burn a pinch in a metal spoon. Inhale the smoke through your mouth while exposing the bad tooth. The worm, he claims, will find the fumes intolerable and come crawling out. Might even hear it squeal, he adds with unsettling enthusiasm. You hand him tarnished coins. He throws in an extra pouch gratis, in case the first worm brought friends. That evening, you conduct the ritual by your hearth. The spoon, your porridge spoon, now forever tainted, holds the powder over candlelight. When it ignites, the stench hits like a physical blow, acid and vile enough to make your eyes water before the smoke even reaches you. Leaning forward, you attempt to inhale as directed. The smoke curls upward, bypassing your mouth to assault your nostrils instead. You gag. Try again. The third attempt sends you into coughing spasms that rattle your skull. The tooth responds to this disturbance with something approaching homicidal rage. You persist. The room fills with yellow haze. Your vision blurs. Your mouth tastes like a chimney fire. Your gums tingle ominously. You imagine hearing something, a faint hiss or squeal, though it's likely just your sinuses screaming. Black phlegm hits the hearth with a hiss. No worm emerges. Undeterred, you try again with a hotter spoonful, bringing it closer to your aching jaw. The smoke hits harder now. Your nose runs. Your tongue feels foreign in your mouth. The pain, rather than fleeing, sharpens. Your jaw begins twitching uncontrollably, dull spasms you can't suppress. Gripping the hearth's edge until your knuckles blanch, you endure 3 more attempts. Between coughing fits, you squint into your mirror shard, hoping to glimpse movement, a thread, a coil, any evidence you're not just poisoning yourself for entertainment. Nothing. Your tongue goes numb. Your gums feel scorched. Your ribs ache from coughing. But the tooth? The tooth remains as furious as ever, pulsing with your heartbeat in mocking rhythm. Still here, still hurting, still winning. Rinsing with warm water proves catastrophic. The nerve reacts like you've stabbed it. You curl inward, groaning. There's no dignity left. Just you, a soot-stained spoon, and the growing certainty that the worm never existed. Or perhaps it died inside your tooth, its rotting corpse now festering in your jawbone. Or maybe you're rotting from within, piece by piece, like old leather in a damp cellar. You press fingers to your burning cheek. Something shifts beneath the skin, or maybe that's just your pulse throbbing through swollen tissue. You pull the blanket over your head and mouth silent pleas, not for healing, just for unconsciousness. The pain doesn't care. Outside, wind howls through the thatch. Smoke stains the walls with ghostly fingers. You cough into the darkness and wait for morning, unsure what comes next, but certain of one thing. The worm, real or imagined, remains. Dawn reveals your face's latest evolution. The swelling has spread downward, your neck now thick and tender to the touch. The tooth no longer pulses. That would imply variation. This is constant, drilling deeper into your skull like it's searching for memories to corrupt. You haven't chewed solid food in days. Sleep comes in fragments between pain spikes, filled with dreams of cracking teeth and foul tastes dripping down your throat. The village barber finds you slumped in your workshop, clutching your face like it might detach. He's delivering a promised razor to your apprentice, but takes one look at you and forgets commerce entirely. That TSK sound says everything. Crossing his arms, he delivers his diagnosis with the confidence of a man who's never doubted anything. You're out of balance. You blink at him through half-lidded eyes. He elaborates. The pain stems from humoral imbalance, likely excess choler or possibly overheated blood. Common issue, really. The body, like a poorly stocked pantry, requires perfect proportion. Too much heat in the head, too little phlegm, and voila, toothache. Your body's way of complaining about its inner alchemy. The solution? Bloodletting. He says this like it's as obvious as sunrise. Not herbs, not prayers, just good old-fashioned life fluid drainage. You're too broken to argue, too desperate to question. So you nod. He claps your apprentice's shoulder. The boy jumps like startled prey and announces he'll return with tools shortly. He does. The leather pouch jingles with sinister promise. Inside, a curved razor that's seen better days, a brass bowl narrow enough to make the collected blood look impressive, a strip of cloth, and, alarmingly, a leech in a glass vial. It glistens at you. You glisten back with sweat. The barber explains the leech is backup. Sometimes blood needs coaxing. You sit on a low stool by the fire, arm bound tight above the elbow to encourage cooperation. He swabs your forearm with something reeking of vinegar and regret. The razor flashes. You don't ask when it was last used. The cut is shallow but burns like betrayal. Blood wells obediently, thin and quick, pattering into the bowl like rain on a tin roof. You stare at it, mesmerized. The barber watches your face, nodding at whatever he sees there. There, he says, letting the heat escape. You sit like this for minutes, watching your essence drip away. Your face still hurts. Your jaw still throbs. But your head does feel lighter, though that might just be blood loss. Cold creeps into your limbs. The fire's warmth can't reach you anymore. Your fingers tingle. Swallowing feels dangerous. The barber examines the bowl, frowns. Might need a little more, he muses. That's when the leech emerges. Held up for inspection, he praises this specimen's pedigree. Harvested from the bog near the old mill, excellent reputation for inflammation. You don't care about its credentials. You want it nowhere near your flesh. But your protests emerge as weak grunts he interprets as consent. The leech attaches below the cut with obscene enthusiasm. You focus on the ceiling beams, trying not to imagine its satisfaction. Your stomach revolts once, twice. You breathe like you did when the ox broke your ribs, slow, measured, each breath a tiny victory. The leech swells grotesquely, its skin stretching to accommodate your stolen vitality. When it finally drops, fat and happy, the barber claps like he's just completed a masterpiece. He dabs your arm with resinous goop that smells like spoiled fruit. You try standing. The room tilts. You sit back down hard. The pain hasn't left. If anything, it's grown more inventive during the procedure. Everything hurts now. Your arm's numb. Your stomach's a knot. Your head's full of wool. Cold, then hot, then cold again in waves. The barber beams. Sign of progress, he assures. Your humors are realigning. Poetic way to say your blood's in a bowl instead of your veins. After he leaves, you lie down for hours. The apprentice watches you like you might explode. Water tastes metallic. Your face still burns, but now your arm sports a leech-shaped bruise that turns your stomach. You haven't eaten since yesterday. Your limbs feel lead-lined. But you are, as promised, lighter by several ounces of blood, a chunk of dignity, and whatever hope remained that the body might heal itself. The pain? The pain's still here, and it's brought friends. The bone setter arrives when your face has become its own landmark. Children whisper as you pass. Dogs sniff the air and retreat. Your left cheek now resembles an overripe fruit seconds before bursting. The skin stretched so tight it glistens in morning light. The swelling has migrated down your neck, forming a thick ridge beneath your jaw that pulses with each heartbeat. You've stopped attempting solid food entirely. Even broth feels like betrayal when it touches your tongue. This wandering healer enters the village accompanied by a limping mule and a cart full of ominous clattering tools. He's a narrow man with shoulders too wide for his frame, his hands permanently crooked from decades of forcing bones into submission. His face could be 40 or 80, weathered beyond recognition by sun and suffering. His name is forgettable. He claims to be passing through toward the market town, but will work for coin, bread, or anything that can hold an edge. Someone, probably your apprentice, tells him about your tooth. He appears at your workshop door before you can protest, smelling like lard and wet sheepskin. Without asking, he grips your chin and tilts your head like appraising livestock. 2 sharp knocks on your swollen cheekbone send lightning through your skull. You yelp. He nods approvingly. Tension in the root. He mutters, as if this explains everything. Your pain, he claims, comes not from decay or infection, but from misaligned facial bones shifting from chewing, shouting, or thinking too hard. You're too exhausted to argue. His theory makes as much sense as worms or humors. He explains that energy should flow through channels in your skull, down your spine, into the earth. Yours is stuck at the jaw hinge. You grunt something between agreement and surrender. He takes it as consent. The first treatment involves pressure, not cutting. He produces a smooth river stone from his satchel, heats it by your fire, and wraps it in cloth soaked in something that smells like fermented despair. When he presses it to your jaw, the heat sears through flesh into bone. He holds it there with a grip that feels like a threat. Your skin prickles. Your teeth vibrate. He hums tunelessly while counting seconds. Instead of relief, the pain intensifies, pushing the infection deeper. Tears well in your eyes. Hold still, he commands, muttering about spirit lines responding. You're unsure if he means blood vessels or something more mystical. Then comes the manipulation. His hands cradle your skull like a potter shaping clay. Open, he orders. You comply slightly. Wider. You try. His fingers shift to your jawbone. Without warning, he jerks your lower jaw forward, then sideways. Something cracks, not loud, but deep, sending nausea through your chest. The sound you make resembles a strangled chicken. Good, good, he croons, repeating the motion 3 more times until your vision blurs and your mouth won't close properly. You can't tell if something realigned or shattered. He peers into your gaping mouth. Much looser now, he declares. You try asking what exactly is looser, but your jaw has forgotten language. He's not finished. Next comes fermented garlic paste rubbed into the joint below your ear, a stench that could wake the dead. His thumb presses behind your molars, leaning his full weight into the spot. The tooth responds with white-hot agony shooting through your sinuses, down your spine, into your toes. You gag violently. He steps back just in time to avoid being vomited on. Good, he says again, wiping his hands on his tunic. Means it's waking up. Whether he means the tooth or imaginary energy channels, you can't tell. You're too busy not fainting. Your entire face throbs now. Your tongue feels swollen. Your lips crack when you try to speak. The unaffected side of your jaw joins the rebellion. A faint ringing starts in your ears. The bone setter produces a final tool, a carved wooden stick with symbols you don't recognize. He places it beneath your tongue. Bite. Breathe. You obey because resistance is beyond you. He taps your temple. Done. You're handed a hot cloth to press to your face. Your lip is split from where your tooth caught it during the adjustments. Your neck feels wrung out like laundry. The tooth does feel looser, whether from healing or impending disaster. You can't say. You pay him with bootlaces and a broken buckle. He departs, promising to be in the next village for 3 days should your alignment require further attention. You stagger home, face wrapped in the cloth, tongue probing your shifted tooth. The wind bites your raw skin. Every step sends tremors through your jaw. Villagers avoid eye contact. Inside your cottage, you collapse by the hearth, curling around your pain like a wounded animal. The room spins. Hours pass. The bleeding slows, then starts again. You press the cloth harder. Your jaw throbs in new configurations, sharp, dull, pulsing, tearing. Your tongue finds jagged edges in the gum, something that might be splintered bone. You don't know what's worse, the agony of absence or the knowledge that part of the tooth remains. You don't sleep. You drift between consciousness and something darker. Dreams of teeth cracking like ice, of iron tools scraping bone, of the bone setter's hands twisting your skull like a chicken's neck. Morning brings no relief. Your jaw is purple and hot. Your breath could kill flowers at 20 paces. The socket weeps yellow and red. The swelling hasn't retreated. It's just reshaped itself, settling under your ear now, hard and hot to the touch. Your neighbor finds you like this, slumped against your workshop wall, clutching your face like it might escape. He's the leathery old goat keeper who believes every problem can be solved by fire. When he sees your state, he whistles low, then delivers his diagnosis. You want that gone? Burn it out. He means the swelling, the infection, the pain itself. Heat kills corruption, he claims. Old soldier's trick. You're too broken to question it. There's a brutal logic here. If internal pain won't relent, perhaps external pain can shout louder. That evening, you kneel by his hearth like a penitent. He's already heating the iron, a thick poker used for stoking fires and discouraging stray dogs. It glows dull red, not white-hot, but alive with dangerous heat. He nods approval at the temperature. No prayers, no preparation, just the crackle of flames and the scent of burning sap. When he lifts the poker toward your face, time slows. Hold still, he says, as if that's possible. He doesn't aim for the tooth itself, That would be too direct. He presses the glowing tip to your cheek, directly over the swelling. The world narrows to a single point of existence. This isn't like fire. Fire is chaos. This is precise, a lance of pure heat driven through flesh into bone, through gum into the rotten root itself. You scream. Of course you scream. A short, wet sound that tears from your throat and dies in the smoke. He doesn't linger. 2 seconds, maybe 3. The iron withdraws, but the pain remains, expanding with each heartbeat. Your vision tunnels. Your breath comes in ragged gasps. You can't feel your cheek anymore, just numb, searing pressure radiating through your skull. The smell of your own burning flesh fills your nose, a nauseating mix of pork and hair oil and profound regret. Your neighbor nods. That'll do it. He hands you a water-soaked rag. Pressing it to the burn stings worse than the iron itself, but you cling to it like salvation. He advises sleeping upright and keeping the wound dry. You nod without hearing. Your ears ring. Your hands won't stop shaking. The walk home is a blur of cold air and pulsing agony. Inside, you drop the cloth and collapse. The pain has changed, not lessened, just transformed. The toothache was familiar. This is new territory. By morning, the blister has risen, a grotesque bubble of fluid making your cheek shine. The skin is red and glossy, angry to the touch. Beneath it, the tooth still aches, like a guest who won't leave even after you've burned down the house. You probe gently. Your lip is swollen. Your gums are tender. The tooth might be looser, or that might be wishful thinking. The burn accomplished one thing. It gave your pain new dimensions. Now your jaw, cheek, and lip compete for attention. Almost democratic. The poker didn't work, but you'll have a scar to remember it by. The barber-surgeon arrives when your face has become a village attraction. Children dare each other to look at you. Women cross themselves when you pass. Your left cheek now resembles a rotten fruit, half collapsed from the burn blister's rupture, yet still swollen enough to distort your profile. The tooth remains, stubborn and spiteful, its roots clinging to your jawbone like a drowning man to wreckage. What began as discomfort has evolved into full rebellion, your body turning against itself in slow, septic mutiny. He rolls into town with theatrical timing, his cart announcing itself with the cheerful clatter of tools that have seen too much suffering. The man himself is all smiles, the kind that suggests either divine confidence or complete absence of conscience. His robe sleeves are stained with old blood, his boots cracked from miles of travel, his breath carrying competing notes of fennel and cheap wine. But his instruments, his instruments gleam with malicious perfection. He displays them near the village well like a merchant showcasing fine silks, blades, hooks, and of course, the tongs. Those infamous iron tongs, curved and toothed like some medieval torture device. They catch the sunlight and wink at you. You hadn't planned to seek him out. Truly, you'd made peace with your suffering, or at least the kind of peace one makes with a persistent robber who won't leave your home. But your neighbor, yes, the same one who pressed hot iron to your face, insists. He drags you across the square by your elbow, shouting about ending this farce. You lack the strength to resist. Days of broth and sleeplessness have left you hollow. The surgeon takes one look at your face, the asymmetrical swelling, the oozing burn, the way you cradle your jaw like a wounded bird, and diagnoses you without asking. Toothworm, he declares, though his eyes say infection, say decay, say payday. He doesn't ask about your symptoms. Doesn't need to. Your face tells the whole ugly story. Easy enough, he announces, already rummaging through his case. We'll have it out directly. You want to ask what exactly he means by it, the tooth? The pain? Your will to live? But words fail you. He motions you toward a stool beneath the elm tree, as if this outdoor setting somehow makes the butchery more respectable. The bark scratches your back through your tunic. The ground tilts beneath your feet. He offers a leather strap to bite down on. You stare at it blankly before obeying. No gloves, of course. None expected. He does wash his hands in a bucket of mint water, then dries them on his already filthy robe. The tongs enter your mouth like an invading army, cold iron probing, searching for purchase. It takes him 3 attempts to clamp onto the tooth properly. When he does, the metal teeth bite into your gum with obscene intimacy. He pauses for dramatic effect. Pressure now, he warns, which is the professional version of "this will haunt your dreams." Then he pulls. The sound is nothing like you imagined. No clean pop, no satisfying crack, just a wet, crunching tear that vibrates through your jaw into your ears. The pain is immediate, total, transcendent. It explodes outward, down your neck, across your temples, into your very soul. You jerk instinctively, but the stool tips dangerously. Hold still. The barber barks, as if you're being unreasonable. He twists the tongs. Something grinds deep in your jaw. You taste blood. He stops, frowns into your mouth. "Stubborn one," he mutters, like this is your fault. Second attempt. This time he braces a foot against your stool for leverage. The pull is stronger, angled now with practiced cruelty. Fresh agony blooms white-hot behind your eyes. Something inside your jaw shifts ominously. You make a sound that would make battle-hardened soldiers wince. The children watching gasp in delighted horror. Third pull. The worst yet. The one that works. Sort of. The tooth doesn't emerge whole. Instead, it shatters, a jagged yellow chunk trailing bloody root fragments dangling from the tong's grip. The surgeon holds it up triumphantly, squinting at the broken remains. "Rot clear through," he pronounces, as if delivering a eulogy. You try to focus on the tooth fragment, but your vision swims. There's blood everywhere, on your chin, your tunic, the ground between your feet. The pain hasn't lessened. If anything, it's grown, a raw, open wound where the tooth once lived. The barber sighs at the incomplete extraction but pockets the fragment anyway, likely to show his next victim. "That's most of it," he declares, wiping the tongs on his robe as if this concludes the transaction. You spit a mouthful of blood into the dirt. It's alarmingly thick. He claps your shoulder. "No charge," he says magnanimously. "First one's always tricky. You want to strangle him. You want to faint. Instead, you simply nod and stagger upright, clutching your face like it might fall apart. The walk home is a blur of pain and humiliation. Dogs bark at your scent. Villagers pretend not to stare. Your front door has never looked so welcoming. Inside, you collapse by the cold hearth, curling around your misery like a wounded animal. The socket weeps blood steadily. You press a cloth to it, watching the fabric darken. Hours pass. The bleeding slows but doesn't stop. Your tongue explores the wreckage and finds jagged edges, part of the root still embedded in your gum, the bone around it fractured from the violence of extraction. Night falls. You don't light a candle. You lie in the dark, drifting between consciousness and something darker. The pain changes shifts, no longer the sharp agony of the extraction, but a deeper, more insistent throbbing. Your jaw feels wrong, unbalanced, like a building missing a crucial support beam. The taste in your mouth shifts from iron to something fouler, a creeping bitterness that lingers no matter how much you spit. Morning brings no relief. If anything, the pain has grown more sophisticated overnight, now radiating down your neck into your collarbone. The swelling hasn't retreated. It's simply redistributed, settling under your jaw in a hard, hot ridge. Your breath smells like death, not the clean metallic scent of fresh blood, but the sweet rot stench of something festering. You attempt water and it sloshes against the open socket, sending fresh jolts of pain through your skull. By midday, the fever finds you. It starts subtly, a flush across your cheeks, a lightness in your head. Then the chills come, racking your body despite the summer heat. Your hands shake so badly you can't hold a cup. The apprentice watches you with widening eyes, but says nothing. When you try to speak, your words slur like a drunkard's. The pain in your jaw has become secondary to this new, more ominous development, your body's declaration of surrender. The village priest arrives unsummoned. You're not dying, not officially, but you're not exactly living either. The line has blurred. He moves through the rituals with practiced ease, the oil, the prayers, the murmured Latin. You catch snippets between waves of fever, affliction, grace, holy test. His hand on your forehead recoils slightly at the heat. The incense smoke makes you cough. He steps back quickly, as if afraid whatever you have might be catching. The last rites, though he doesn't call them that. Just precautions, just in case. He leaves the candle burning by your bedside. Its flickering light dances on the walls, casting monstrous shadows that twist and leer. You drift. The fever climbs. Your thoughts unravel like old rope. At times you're certain the barber is back, his tongs probing your mouth for more fragments. Other times you see the bone setter, cracking your spine like a walnut. The neighbor with his poker grins from the corner. The tooth which offers you steaming herbs that smell of rotting meat. Days blur together. The apprentice comes and goes like a ghost, leaving broth you can't stomach, water you can't hold. Your face continues its metamorphosis, the swelling spreading down your neck now, the skin stretched shiny and tight. The socket oozes intermittently, its secretions changing from bloody to something thicker, yellower, fouler. The stench clings to your clothes, your hair, the very air of your cottage. At some point, someone applies a poultice, honey and moldy herbs bound to your cheek with linen strips. It darkens as it soaks up whatever your face is producing. You lie still, watching the ceiling, thinking about all the people who've probably died from exactly this. Not battle wounds, not plague, just one stubborn tooth and the slow, septic aftermath of its removal. The priest returns periodically to mumble more prayers, to sprinkle holy water that stings your raw skin. He doesn't promise recovery, doesn't need to. The way he avoids your eyes says everything. The candle burns lower. The shadows grow longer. You lose track of time entirely, floating in a haze of pain and fever dreams. Your tongue feels thick. Your fingers tingle strangely. The lump under your jaw hardens into something alarming. When the monk comes with his vial of oil and his final blessings, you're almost relieved. The end, at least, is a certainty. Not healing, not recovery, just an ending. He anoints your forehead, your lips, your palms. The ritual motions performed with gentle efficiency. You don't resist. There's no fight left in you. Just the candles flicker, the monk's murmurs, and the quiet, shameful knowledge that after all this suffering, after all these treatments and tortures, it's still just a tooth that's killing you. The fever breaks not with fanfare, but with whimper. One morning, or perhaps evening, time having lost all meaning, you wake to find the candle burned down to a nub, its wax frozen in tortured drips down the bedside table. The left side of your face no longer feels like a smith's forge, merely a baker's oven. The swelling has retreated from your neck, leaving behind tender skin and a lingering stiffness when you turn your head. Your mouth tastes like a battlefield, metallic, sour, with undertones of something long deceased. The priest stands over you, his vial of oil clutched in hands that shake slightly. He looks more surprised than you when your eyes focus properly. His lips move through the last rites on autopilot, even as he registers your returning awareness. The moment stretches awkwardly, him halfway through condemning your soul to heaven, you too weak to explain you're not quite done needing your body. Water, you croak, and the word tears through your throat like broken glass. But it's a word, a coherent one. The priest blinks, then hurries to fetch the cup by your bedside, spilling half in his haste. The lukewarm liquid feels like salvation against your cracked lips, though swallowing sends dull echoes of pain through your jaw. Days pass in slow procession. The fever doesn't so much vanish as grow bored, retreating to lurk in your joints and occasional night sweats. The swelling continues its gradual deflation, leaving your face lopsided but no longer monstrous. Your breath remains foul, but now carries notes of healing infection rather than active decay. The socket where your tooth once resided has hardened into a craggy crater, its edges ragged but no longer weeping. Eating remains impossible at first. Even broth requires concentration, each sip a calculated risk against choking. Your apprentice watches these attempts with the tense readiness of a man prepared to catch falling crockery. He's taken to boiling the broth longer, skimming off every possible particle that might irritate your wounds. You notice this. You notice many things now that the fever fog has lifted. The way villagers pause when they pass your workshop, the children who dare each other to peek through your window, the freshly carved wooden saint figurine someone left by your door. The priest returns periodically, though his oils stay tucked away now. He brings small comforts, a pouch of honey, a length of clean linen, news from the village that requires no response from you. His visits grow shorter as you grow stronger, until one day he simply nods at you from the doorway and moves on to other parishioners. The unspoken message is clear: you're no longer dying. Not today. Strength returns in fits and starts. Sitting upright for a full hour becomes an accomplishment. Walking to the privy without assistance feels like a pilgrimage. Your first attempt at work lasts precisely the time it takes to sharpen one knife before your hands shake too badly to continue. The apprentice says nothing, just takes the blade from your grip and continues the task himself. By week's end, you manage to stitch a simple belt. The work is shoddy, uneven stitches, crooked edges, but it's work. It's proof you still belong to the world of the living. You run your tongue along the ruined socket out of habit, finding the edges smoother now, the bone beneath less tender. The remaining tooth fragments have either worked themselves free or been swallowed during fever dreams. Only the memory of pain remains, and even that is fading like a bad dream upon waking. The village slowly stops treating you like a ghost. The baker's boy no longer crosses himself when delivering your bread. The blacksmith meets your eyes again. Even the dogs have ceased their nervous barking at your scent. Only your apprentice still watches you with that particular mixture of awe and concern, as if expecting you to collapse between one breath and the next. You let him. The attention isn't entirely unpleasant, and truth be told, you're not as strong as you pretend. Some afternoons find you slumped on your workbench, head in hands, riding out waves of dizziness. Nights bring strange dreams where your teeth crumble like chalk, falling from your mouth in jagged pieces. You wake with a start each time, fingers probing your jaw to confirm all is intact. The first time you laugh, really laugh, at some crude joke the tanner's son makes, the pain nearly bowls you over. Your jaw isn't ready for such exuberance, the healed muscles protesting the unfamiliar stretch. But it's a good pain, in its way, a reminder that you're alive enough to feel it. Summer wanes. The days grow shorter, the air carrying the first hints of autumn's crispness. You work longer hours now, rebuilding calluses on your hands, retraining muscles grown slack during weeks of inactivity. The ruined socket still twinges when the weather changes, a phantom pain where the tooth once lived. Your chewing remains lopsided, your speech slightly slurred on the left side. These are your souvenirs from death's doorstep. The barber-surgeon passes through the village again. You see him from across the square, his cart piled high with the same gleaming instruments. He doesn't approach you, doesn't need to. The way his eyes skitter away when they meet yours says everything. You wonder if he remembers your face from among the hundreds he's maimed, or if you're just another botched extraction in a long career of them. You don't confront him. There's no point. Instead, you turn back to your workbench, to the boots sole you're stitching, to the life that somehow continues despite everything. The pain is gone, mostly. The memory remains. And in odd moments, when you catch your reflection in still water, when a cold wind makes the old wound ache, when you pass the elm tree where he pulled your tooth, you feel it again. Not the physical pain, but the humiliation, the helplessness, the sheer absurdity of nearly dying from something so small. You survived. That's the important part. The rest is just details. Winter arrives like an uninvited guest, draping the village in a shroud of frost and silence. Your breath hangs visible in the workshop air, each exhalation a reminder of the cold that seeps into your bones, and the peculiar ache that now lives permanently in your jaw. The ruined socket has hardened into an uneven ridge, the missing tooth's absence more pronounced in cold weather, as if the void itself contracts with the dropping temperatures. You've developed new habits without realizing it. The way you tilt your head when listening, compensating for the slight deafness in your left ear that the fever left behind. The careful positioning of food on the right side of your mouth before chewing. The unconscious tongue movements that probe the healed wound several times an hour, like a soldier checking an old injury. These are the invisible scars, the adjustments one makes to accommodate survival. The first snow finds you at your workbench, fingers stiff around your awl. Your apprentice, no longer wide-eyed with concern, but still watchful, stokes the fire higher without being asked. The warmth helps, though nothing truly banishes the deep chill that settled into your marrow during those fevered weeks. You move slower now, more deliberately, like a tree that's weathered too many storms and grown cautious. Customers have returned, though some still speak to you with that particular tone reserved for those who've brushed against death. They comment on your recovery, on the weather, on anything but the visible dent in your cheek or the way your words occasionally slur when tired. The Reeves son, the one whose boots you were making when the tooth first rebelled, collects them at last, paying extra for the delay. You know it's charity disguised as commerce, but accept it with a nod. Pride is a luxury for healthy men. Midwinter brings the first real test of your recovery. A traveling merchant orders a saddle, promising good silver for quality work. It's the kind of job that would have thrilled you months ago. Profitable, challenging, a chance to prove your skill. Now you measure the task against the lingering weakness in your hands, the way your vision sometimes blurs after hours of close stitching. Still, you agree. A man must eat, even if his jaw protests the chewing. The work consumes days. You rise before dawn, your breath pluming in the icy darkness, and work by candlelight until your fingers grow too numb to feel the leather. The cold makes your jaw ache in strange new ways. Not the sharp pain of infection, but a deep, grinding discomfort that seems to emanate from the bone itself. You develop a habit of pressing your left palm to your cheek while working, the warmth offering meager relief. When the merchant returns, he examines the saddle with a critical eye, running thick fingers along every seam. You stand quietly, jaw clenched against the cold and something sharper. The fear that your hands have forgotten their craft, that the fever stole your skill along with your health. But the merchant nods approval, counts out silver with only slight haggling, and leaves satisfied. The moment should taste sweet. Instead, you're simply tired, the satisfaction dulled by the constant background hum of discomfort. The year's shortest day passes in a blur of candle smoke and aching joints. The villagers celebrate with a bonfire in the square, its glow painting the snowdrifts orange. You watch from your doorway, the warmth of your own hearth at your back. Laughter carries through the frozen air, mingling with the scent of mulled wine and roasting chestnuts. Last winter, you would have joined them, would have been deep in your cups by now, trading bawdy songs with the tanner's boys. Tonight, the cold bites your face with special malice, finding every flaw in your healed flesh. You close the door gently, preferring the quiet company of your tools. Spring thaw arrives late, the ice clinging to the thatches like a drunk to his last cup. The first warm day finds you sitting outside your workshop, a half-finished belt in your lap, turning your face to the sunlight like a flower. The warmth eases your jaw's constant complaints, if only slightly. A group of children play nearby, their shouts ringing through the village. One, the miller's youngest, pauses to stare at your face with the brutal honesty of the very young. "What happened there?" he asks, pointing to your cheeks hollow. His friends freeze, eyes wide at this breach of village etiquette. You should scold him, should shoo them all away. Instead, you find yourself smiling, the expression still lopsided, still pulling oddly at your healed flesh. "Toothworm," you say and wink. The children gasp, half terrified, half delighted. You spin them the peddler's tale with embellishments. A worm so large it could be heard gnawing from across the room. So vicious it took 3 men to hold you down for its removal. Their eyes grow round as coins. By tomorrow, the story will have grown wings, and you'll be a minor legend in the village children's mythology. This, you realize, is how stories survive, not in facts, but in the telling. The miller comes by later, apologetic, his son in tow. You wave it away. The boy did nothing wrong. If anything, he's done you a service. There's power in shaping your own story, in turning pain into entertainment. The miller leaves a sack of flour as apology turned payment. You make the boy a tiny belt from scrap leather, his name tooled clumsily into the surface. Your hands still lack their former precision, but the child beams as if you've given him gold. Summer returns in a riot of green and birdsong. You're working on another saddle when the pain flares anew, not in the healed socket, but its neighbor. A familiar dull ache, a throbbing warmth beneath the gum. Your tongue finds the offender almost before your mind registers the danger. A molar on the edge of the ruined territory, tender to the touch. Your blood turns to ice despite the season's heat. Not again. Please, not again. You press your fingers to your jaw, probing gently. The tooth doesn't scream in protest. Not yet. Just a warning murmur, a quiet announcement of its presence. Perhaps it's nothing. Perhaps just the changing weather, or something caught between teeth, or a passing fancy of the body. You tell yourself this even as your other hand reaches for the bottle of wine you've been saving. Just in case. That night, you lie awake long after the village has gone quiet, listening to your own pulse thudding in your ears. The new ache is slight, barely worth noticing if you hadn't been trained by pain to be vigilant. Outside your window, an owl calls. Somewhere in the darkness, a fox barks its reply. The wine sits heavy in your stomach, its warmth doing little to ease the dread coiling beneath your ribs. You think of the healer's hut, of the barber's gleaming tools, of the bone setter's cracking manipulations. You think of the priest's oils, of the neighbor's poker, of the long nights when death seemed preferable to another dawn of suffering. Most of all, you think of the tooth that started it all, its slow rebellion, its stubborn refusal to die quietly, the way it took pieces of you with it when it finally went. The new tooth throbs gently, almost apologetically. You press your tongue to it, testing. A faint spark of discomfort answers. Not pain. Not yet. But the promise of pain. The threat of it. You close your eyes and breathe through your nose, counting heartbeats until the rhythm lulls you towards sleep. Tomorrow, you tell yourself. Tomorrow you'll decide what to do. Perhaps a poultice. Perhaps a prayer. Perhaps nothing at all. The options stretch before you like paths in a dark wood, each leading to some unknown destination. For tonight, there is only the quiet, the ache, and the memory of how quickly a small pain can become a living thing. The new pain doesn't vanish with morning light. If anything, it grows more insistent as the day progresses, a dull, nagging presence that pulses in time with your heartbeat. By midday, you're chewing exclusively on your right side again, a habit you thought broken. The apprentice notices, of course. His eyes flick to your jaw whenever you wince, but he says nothing. Smart boy. Some pains aren't meant to be spoken aloud. You try the old remedies first, the ones that didn't work last time, but cost nothing to attempt. Salt water rinses that leave your mouth tasting like the sea and your gums stinging. Chewing parsley because someone's grandmother once swore by it. Pressing a warm stone to your cheek when no one's looking. The rituals of desperation, performed with the grim determination of a man who knows their futility but can't quite stop himself. 3 days pass this way. The pain doesn't worsen, but it doesn't improve either. It simply exists, a constant companion like the ache in your knees before rain. You find yourself pausing mid-stitch to press your tongue against the offending tooth, testing its mood like a farmer testing wind direction. Always the same result, a flare of discomfort, then the slow fade back to baseline misery. On the fourth morning, you wake to find your cheek slightly puffy, the skin stretched tighter over your jawbone than it should be. The mirror confirms it, the faintest swelling, barely noticeable unless you knew what to look for. And you do. Oh, you do. Your stomach clenches at the sight. Not again. Not so soon. The decision comes quietly, without fanfare. You won't endure the healer's herbs again. Won't subject yourself to the bone setter's brutal manipulations or the neighbor's fiery poker. Certainly won't let that butcher of a barber-surgeon near you with his gleaming tongs. There's only one option left, really, the one you should have chosen from the start. The monastery lies half a day's walk east, nestled in the rolling hills beyond the river. You leave at dawn, your breath pluming in the crisp morning air. The road is quiet, the village still asleep save for a few early risers who nod as you pass. No one asks where you're going. Perhaps they already know. Walking feels good after days of hunched tension. The rhythm of your steps, the stretch of muscles too long cramped over workbenches. The swelling in your jaw seems to lessen with movement. Or maybe you're just imagining it. Either way, the journey passes quickly, the countryside unfolding around you in shades of green and gold. The monastery's bell tower appears first, its peaked roof rising above the tree-line like a beckoning finger. Then the walls themselves, rough-hewn stone draped in ivy, worn smooth by generations of passing hands. The gate stands open, as it always does, though few from your village dare to cross its threshold. You pause just outside, suddenly uncertain. What if they turn you away? What if the saint's relic is as powerless as the healer's herbs? A monk appears as if summoned, his robes whispering across the flagstones. He's older than you expected, his face a map of wrinkles, his hands gnarled like tree roots. But his eyes are clear and kind. He takes one look at your face, at the swelling you can no longer hide, and nods understanding. "Come," he says, and turns back toward the cloisters without checking if you follow. You do, of course. What choice have you? The monastery smells of incense and damp stone, of candle wax, and something earthy beneath, perhaps the scent of the gardens hidden behind these walls. The monk leads you down a narrow corridor, his sandals slapping softly against the worn stones. The walls are lined with carvings of saints, their wooden faces smoothed by centuries of reverent touches. At the end of the hall stands a small chapel, its air thick with the smoke of countless prayers. The relic rests on the altar, a yellowed molar encased in crystal, said to have belonged to Saint Bran the Long-Suffering. The monk gestures for you to kneel. You do, though the movement makes your jaw twinge. He places a thin cloth over your head, its weave so fine it feels like cobwebs against your skin. The prayers begin, low, rhythmic Latin that vibrates in your chest. You close your eyes, not praying exactly, but thinking very loudly at the relic. You think of your tooth, of the pain, of all the failed remedies and sleepless nights. You think of the barber's hands, of the bone setter's cracking manipulations, of the way your own breath turned foul with infection. Most of all, you think of the fear, the cold, clawing terror of knowing your body was betraying you piece by piece. The monk's fingers are cool against your forehead, his touch feather-light. There's no miracle, no sudden absence of pain, but something shifts nonetheless. A quietness settling over you like a blanket, a sense that whatever happens next, you won't face it alone. The prayers end. The monk helps you to your feet. You nod your thanks, suddenly unable to speak around the lump in your throat. The walk home is slower, the afternoon sun warm on your back. Your jaw still aches, the swelling still present, but the dread has lessened somehow. You pass through the village square without stopping, ignoring the curious glances. Let them wonder. Some journeys aren't meant to be explained. That night, you dream of teeth, not crumbling or rotting, but whole and strong, gleaming like pearls in the darkness. You wake with your fingers pressed to your cheek, surprised to find the swelling has lessened slightly. The pain remains, but it's different now, quieter, more manageable, as if whatever festered beneath has been lanced by something beyond your understanding. Days pass. The swelling recedes by increments, the pain fading to a dull memory. You don't know whether to credit the saint's intervention or simple coincidence, and in the end, it doesn't matter. The tooth remains in your head, its rebellion quelled for now. You chew carefully, rinse with salt water morning and night, and try not to probe the gum too often with your tongue. Small precautions, but they help. Life resumes its rhythm. Work comes and goes. Shoes for the cooper's children, a new belt for the blacksmith, repairs to the reeve's favorite saddle. Your hands regain their old skill, the stitches growing straighter, the cuts cleaner. The apprentice begins to relax around you again, his watchfulness fading into comfortable silence. Even your speech improves, the slur nearly gone unless you're very tired. Summer fades into autumn, the leaves turning gold at the edges before spiraling to the ground. You take to walking in the evenings sometimes, just to feel the cool air on your face. The village seems smaller now, its dramas less pressing. You watch the children play their games, the women gossip at the well, the men argue politics outside the tavern. It's all so ordinary, so precious. The first frost comes early, silvering the thatches overnight. You wake to find your jaw stiff, the old wound protesting the cold. It's nothing like before, just a faint ache, easily ignored. You press a warm cloth to it while the porridge cooks, humming softly under your breath. The fire crackles in the hearth, its light dancing across the tools hanging neatly on your wall. Your tools, your life. Outside, the village stirs to life, smoke rising from a dozen chimneys. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks at nothing in particular. The world goes on, toothaches and all. You take a deep breath, stretch your shoulders, and step out to meet it. Winter returns with teeth bared, its bite sharper than you remember. The first true snowstorm howls through the village, piling drifts against doors and shutters, silencing even the most vocal dogs. You huddle near your hearth, a blanket draped over your shoulders, watching the flames dance while the wind rattles the walls. Your jaw aches dully, not the sharp pain of before, but the deep, familiar complaint of old injuries remembering their origins. The cold makes you restless. Days spent indoors with only the apprentice for company wear thin quickly. He's a good lad, quiet and hardworking, but his presence reminds you too much of those fevered weeks when he hovered like a specter at your bedside. Now he watches you differently, with something approaching admiration that sits uncomfortably on your shoulders. You're no hero, just a man who survived his own body's betrayal. Between storms, you take to walking the village perimeter, stamping through fresh snow just to feel your legs burn with effort. The exercise helps, though your breath comes shorter than it once did. The miller jokes that you're pacing like a caged bear, and there's truth in it. You've become acutely aware of your own fragility these past months, of how quickly strength can bleed away. Christmas comes and goes in a blur of candlelight and mumbled prayers. The villagers feast in the churchyard, their breath steaming in the frigid air as they pass around skins of mulled wine. You sip sparingly, wary of the way alcohol makes your tongue probe the old wound. The reeve claps you on the back too hard, sending a jolt through your jaw that makes your eyes water. He doesn't notice. No one does. Pain has become your private companion again, quieter now, but no less present. Midwinter brings the peddler once more, his cart piled high with trinkets and remedies. You watch from your workshop as the villagers cluster around him, their voices carrying across the square. He looks older, his face more lined, his movements slower. When his gaze lands on you, there's a moment of recognition, then a quick glance away. Neither of you acknowledges the last transaction. Some memories are best left buried. The apprentice asks if you need anything from the peddler's wares. You shake your head. No more powders. No more promises. The tools of your trade hang neatly on the wall, awls and knives and needles that do what they're meant to do without pretense. There's comfort in their honesty. As the days lengthen, so does your strength. The saddle orders increase as travelers prepare for spring journeys. Your hands remember their old skill, though you work slower now, taking breaks to stretch stiff fingers and roll your shoulders. The apprentice picks up the slack without complaint, his own craftsmanship improving under your watchful eye. Sometimes you catch him glancing at your cheek when he thinks you're not looking, his expression unreadable. One such afternoon, as you're finishing a particularly intricate harness, he speaks unexpectedly. Did it change you? The question hangs between you, weighted with meanings you can't quite parse. You set down your awl and consider the boy, really consider him, for perhaps the first time. His hands are rough with calluses already, his forearms corded with the muscle of his trade. Not a boy anymore, you realize. A man grown, or nearly so. Change me how? You ask, though you understand perfectly. He gestures vaguely at your face, at the hollow where the tooth once was. After, did you see things differently? The honesty in his voice surprises you. This isn't idle curiosity. He's asking for himself, for some future pain he'll inevitably face. You wipe your hands on your apron, stalling for time. The truth is complicated. Did it change you? Yes. No. Not in ways you can explain. You notice more, you say at last. Little things. The way bread tastes when you can chew properly. How quiet the workshop is before dawn. That first swallow of water when you're truly thirsty. You tap the workbench between you. This, the feel of good leather under your fingers. You don't need teeth for that. He nods slowly, absorbing this. You wonder what he hears in your words, wisdom or rambling. You can't tell, but something in his posture relaxes. The conversation ends there, but in the days that follow, you catch him savoring his meals more, pausing sometimes to feel the texture of a hide before cutting. Small appreciations. Maybe that's the real lesson, after all. Spring arrives in fits and starts. One day warm enough to leave the door open, the next bringing sleet that slices the paths. The villagers emerge from their winter hovels like hedgehogs from hibernation, blinking in the sunlight. The women gossip at the well again. The men argue crop rotations outside the tavern. Life resumes its familiar patterns. You take your walks further now, sometimes venturing beyond the fields to the forest's edge where wild garlic grows thick. The scent reminds you of the healer's hut, though the memory lacks its former bitterness. Time has sanded down the sharp edges of your suffering, leaving only the lessons behind. You chew a leaf thoughtfully, enjoying its bite, grateful your remaining teeth can still manage it. The anniversary of your illness passes unnoticed by anyone but you. A year ago, you lay sweating and delirious, certain each breath would be your last. Today, you're stitching a pair of boots for the miller's wife, your hands steady, your mind clear. The socket still twinges when the weather changes, but the pain is a whisper now, not a scream. You've learned its language, know when to ignore it and when to rest. Summer comes on swift feet, bringing with it travelers and news from distant towns. The Reeves' son returns from his apprenticeship in the city, full of new ideas and fancy words. He stops by your workshop to admire your tools, his hands, soft now from clerking, tracing the familiar blades with something like nostalgia. You wonder if he remembers the boots you were making when the tooth first revolted, if he knows how close you came to never finishing them. The harvest festival finds you in unusually high spirits. You drink a bit more ale than intended, laugh a bit louder at the tanner's jokes. When the musicians strike up a lively tune, you even attempt a few steps, though your knees protest. The children giggle at your awkward movements, and you ham it up, staggering comically until they're breathless with laughter. For the first time in memory, you don't worry about your jaw, about how you look, about what might hurt tomorrow. Later, as you're walking home under a sky thick with stars, the miller's youngest runs up to you. "Tell us about the toothworm," he demands, his friends clustering behind him with wide eyes. The story has grown in the telling over the year. The worm now supposedly as thick as your thumb, its shrieks audible from the next village. You play along, spinning the tale with theatrical grimaces and hand gestures that send the children shrieking with delighted terror. Their parents smile indulgently from nearby. No one corrects your exaggerations. No one mentions the weeks you disappeared, the rumors of your impending death, the smell that clung to your cottage for months afterward. The suffering has been sanded away, leaving only the story, wild and improbable and far more palatable than the truth. You don't mind. Let them have their monster. You know the reality, the slow creep of infection, the helplessness, the way pain can strip a man down to his barest essence. But you also know this, the warmth of the sun on your face after a long winter, the satisfaction of a well-made stitch, the way laughter still feels, even with fewer teeth to show for it. The children scatter to their beds, still giggling about worms and curses. You continue home alone, the night air cool on your skin. Your jaw doesn't ache. Your breath is sweet with summer ale. The past feels distant now, like something that happened to another man in another life. Maybe it did. You pause at your door, looking back at the village square where the last revelers are putting out the torches. The shadows stretch long across the packed earth, merging together until you can't tell where one ends and the next begins. A year ago, you couldn't imagine standing here like this, whole enough, happy enough, alive against all odds. The stars wheel overhead, indifferent to human suffering or survival. You take a deep breath, savoring the simple act of it, then step inside. The years accumulate like fallen leaves, quietly, persistently, until one day you look around and find yourself standing knee-deep in memories. Your workshop walls bear witness to the passage of time, tools darkened by years of handling, leather scraps piled in familiar corners, The workbench grooved where your awl has worn its signature path. Even your reflection surprises you sometimes. The face in the water barrel more lined, more weathered than you remember. The hollow in your cheek now just another feature among many. The village has changed around you. Children you remember as babes in arms now bring their own little ones to your workshop for first shoes. The reeve who commissioned those fateful boots has gone to his rest, replaced by his once apprentice son. Even your own boy, for you've come to think of the apprentice that way, has grown into his craft, taking on more of the work as your hands grow less steady. The pain comes and goes these days, an old acquaintance dropping by unannounced. Some mornings you wake with your jaw stiff as a rusted hinge, the old socket throbbing in time with your pulse. Other days pass without incident, the memories of suffering distant enough to almost forget. You've learned to read the weather in your bones, the dampness before rain, the sharp cold that precedes snow. Your body has become its own almanac. Today is one of the good days. The autumn sun slants through your open door, painting the workshop floor in gold. You're working on a simple belt, the leather supple under your fingers, the stitches falling into their familiar rhythm. Outside, the village goes about its business. Women chatting at the well, children chasing chickens through the dust, men debating the price of grain. The sounds weave together into a tapestry as familiar as your own breath. A shadow darkens your doorway. You look up to see a stranger, or nearly a stranger. The boy from all those years ago, the miller's youngest who first asked about your tooth, now grown into a broad-shouldered man with children of his own. He holds one by the hand, a girl of perhaps 5, all wide eyes and tangled curls. "My onion needs shoes," he says by way of greeting. "Proper ones, for winter." You nod and beckon them inside. The girl approaches cautiously, her gaze darting between your tools and your face. You smile, careful not to show too many teeth. You've learned over the years how gaps can frighten children. When she's close enough, you kneel with some difficulty and take her small foot in your hand, measuring the length against a stick marked with notches. Her skin is warm, her toes curling slightly at the touch. "Did a wolf bite you?" she asks suddenly, pointing to your cheek. Her father makes a noise of protest, but you laugh, a sound that still surprises you with its ease. "No, little one. A tooth worm, long ago." Her eyes grow round. "A real worm, real as rain," you say, and spin the old tale with embellishments that would make the peddler proud. The worm grows in the telling, becoming as thick as your wrist. It shrieks loud enough to wake the dead. The girl gasps in delighted terror, clinging to her father's leg even as she begs for more details. You give them freely, weaving the story as you mark the leather for cutting. By the time her father leads her away, promising to return in a week, she's half convinced you're a hero who fought a dragon in disguise. Your boy, no, your fellow craftsman now, chuckles from his bench. That story gets taller every year. You shrug, running your thumb along the leather's edge. Stories are like teeth. They wear down if you don't tend them. He nods, though you're not certain he understands. How could he? His own teeth are still strong, his body still obedient. He hasn't learned yet how the world wears grooves into a man, how pain can reshape you if you let it. But he will. Everyone does, given time. The days shorten. The girl's shoes take shape under your careful hands. Tiny things with reinforced toes for kicking stones and sturdy soles for running. You add a secret design inside each one, a small carved, where only she will find it. A gift for a child who still believes in stories. When they come to collect the finished shoes, the girl hugs them to her chest like treasure. Her father presses coins into your palm. Too many, as fathers with only daughters sometimes do. You try to refuse the extra, but he shakes his head. "For the story," he says, and something in his smile tells you he remembers that long ago summer when a gap-toothed man first spun tales for wide-eyed children. Winter comes again, as it always does. You feel it in your bones before the first snow falls, a deep ache that no fire can quite banish. Your hands move slower now, the fingers stiff in the cold, but they still remember their craft. The boy, the man, you correct yourself, handles most of the heavy work these days, though you still guide the stitching on finer pieces. It's a good arrangement. The work continues, even as the workers change. On the longest night of the year, you sit by your hearth, a blanket across your knees, watching the flames dance. The house is quiet save for the crackle of burning wood and the occasional scrape of a neighbor's shovel clearing snow. Your jaw aches dully, as it often does in the cold, but the pain is an old companion now, something to acknowledge and then set aside. You think of all the winters past, the fevered one where you hovered between life and death, the long recovery that followed, the slow return to something resembling normalcy. The memories lack their former sting. Time has softened them, like leather worn smooth with handling. Outside, the village children are singing, their voices bright against the winter hush. You catch snippets of the tune, something about wolves and winter and teeth as sharp as icicles. A new story, or perhaps an old one retold. It doesn't matter. Stories, like teeth, have roots deeper than we know. The fire burns low. The cold presses at the windows, but inside, all is warm. Your tools hang on their accustomed hooks, ready for morning. Your hands, though lined and spotted with age, remain capable. The hollow in your cheek catches the firelight, a reminder of battles fought and survived. You lean back in your chair and close your eyes, listening to the distant singing. The pain is there, as it always is, but so too are 100 other things. The smell of leather and wood smoke, the memory of a child's laughter, the satisfaction of work done well. Life, in all its messy, painful glory. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges, its own small joys. For now, there is only the fire's warmth, the quiet, and the knowledge that you've weathered worse storms than this. The children's song fades into the night. Somewhere an owl calls. You breathe deep and let the moment settle around you like snow.